Ranking the Scene.
Welcome, everyone, to Ranking the Scene, where every single week we bring 3 brand new albums from the alternative music scene to the ever-growing tier list and rank them against every other album that we've brought before. This week, Green Day, Father of All, motherfuckers, Good Charlotte's, The Young and the Hopeless, and State Champs, The Finer Things.
Motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. You can follow us at SOTS Podcast on all social media, and if you want to support the show, Patreon.com/SOTS Podcast, where you can also suggest albums for us to bring to brand new episodes of Ranking the Scene. And as always, if you enjoy the show, leave a thumbs up. And if you disagree with our choices, leave a comment. Marcus, you ready to get into it?
Our first pop punk themed specifically?
It is, right? I noticed that too. I mean, probably intentionally in the back of my head, I was like, let me cultivate an episode that has some sort of follow through. And I actually asked our patrons specifically this week to provide me the best and worst album from a band. 2 of these were the best. One of these was the worst. You'll never guess. You'll never guess.
Hard to say.
Marcus, you ready to talk about some fucking uncut rock?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Hold on. No, I'm so ahead of myself. Okay, so this, as it stands, is the current tier list, starting with GOAT and working our way down from there. Masterpiece, Certified Hood Classic, That Bitch, Just Okay, Pretty Mid, Fucking Awful, Crime to Humanity.
The loneliest tier.
As it stands right now, the best album we've listened to since starting the series is Disposed by the Plot in You, and unfortunately the worst has been Aggressive by Beartooth. And as you can see, you have a wide variety of albums in between, some ranging from pretty great to just all right. But we are yet to experience a crime to humanity. Marcos, let's discuss Green Day, Father of All Motherfuckers. Marcos, Father of All Motherfuckers, often shortened to Father of All as a G-rated title for media and promotion. All of this provided to us via Genius. Green Day's 13th studio album comes after the critically acclaimed 2016 Revolution Radio and some other nonsense in there. Did you ever listen to Revolution Radio?
No, for me, that's for not being the biggest Green Day fan in the world whatsoever, that's the one I often forget exists, because in my mind, this jumps from Father of All back to the Uno, Dos, Tres era.
Uh-huh.
Where they did the triple album. We've never seen it before Green Day, Trailblazers.
I can't tell you a single thing about Uno, Dos, Tres.
I just know that each of them had their face on an album cover.
I mean, I feel like this is almost in I don't want to challenge Genius here, but I thought Uno, Dos, Tres came after Revolution Radio. I thought that happened between this and this.
No,
but
I think this sounds right. I think Uno, Dos, Tres was all the way back in early 2010s.
Was that post American Idiot? Was there another album after American Idiot?
Yes. To all those questions. I'm not your source for Green Day information.
I'm not the most familiar with Green Day either.
This one's already 4 years old.
It's crazy to think about, right? Because this was such a cultural moment.
The promotion around this one was a cultural moment. Everyone throw it in post, Sam. The billboard that read, listen, no coke was consumed during the writing and recording of this album. We didn't let any Swedish people into the country when we recorded this album. None of that shit.
No Swedes.
Right. It's weird thing to, draw a line on.
Yeah, we're gonna look back on that and it becomes more problematic as years go on. It's
what else was it? So it was no Swedish DJs or songwriters or something.
Yeah, no Swedish beat makers or something stupid.
Right. No.
What else? No, I mean, I know that they were just pure uncut rock.
Yeah.
Or punk rock or something.
Right. The veiniest rock there's ever been. It actually
pisses me off. It pisses me off just a little that get rid of all of this nonsense about how G-rated title for media and promotion. No, just give me the quote. Just give me the billboard. That's all that really matters when we're talking about
also,
this album.
Man, out of any little pull quote here, that to read a little deeper into, it's the record holds no specific theme.
Oh, it holds a theme.
Well,
How do you feel about the artwork before we actually
awful,
get into
god awful. I like it on paper in the sense that like a throwback to
I like it for a
a
different
very
band.
specific era of
If this was like a
band.
Forever the Sickest Kids album from like 2004, I'd be like, yeah, that artwork's iconic.
Yeah.
But it being a Green Day album in the year of our Lord 2020,
It's super like adult swimmy in a way that's like, in a bad way is what I mean. Like it doesn't feel like as meta as that can be, or they don't pull it off in the way that you would hope they would. So to me, this just looks like, why is there a unicorn on there? It just looks bad.
do you think that it was maybe no coincidence that we were stricken with a pandemic exactly 1 month after the release of this album?
I'm connecting dots.
They were going to go this, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but wasn't this the album that they were going to do the mega super incredible tour that they were going to do with Weezer and Fall Out Boy that ended up getting delayed? Like that wasn't that the tour that got delayed, which would have been in Green Day's case, it would have been off the back of this album.
Mega
Mega Mega
super duper.
Yeah, Father of All Tours or whatever the fuck.
I wouldn't have gone if they were gonna play any songs off this album. I'm not gonna lie, this one fucking sucks. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Not Green Day's finest work by any stretch of the imagination.
You didn't hear this album prior to us checking it out for the show, or you did?
I checked it out for the podcast in general prior to reviewing their newest album this year. I went back and I was like,
I'll give you $20 out of my pocket right now if you can name that album. Literally out of my pocket right now.
I can't do it. I can't. It's not there.
Anyway, so big Green Day guy. So I came into this and I was thinking, all right, Green Day hasn't let me down before. Like, there's a good chance this is probably still pretty good, in spite of all of his marketing.
Okay, interesting. Not even the once before this.
Honest to God, I came into this album and I was like, I wonder if there's a good song on here, like just one. And I think that maybe there is. I don't hate I Was a Teenager. I don't hate that.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that one because that one's
hate that fucking the most. Like, what the fuck? Really?
I think out of any of these,
the only song I like, you hate.
God, this is like,
yeah,
this is a pretty brutal challenge. Is finding one or two songs on here that are actually good.
This is gonna sound weird, but when I listen to this album, I rarely heard Green Day. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, like a song like Fire Ready Aim, you listen to that and that is not in my brain at all what Green Day should sound like in any capacity.
Or at least any familiarity I have with the project.
It's like surfer rock at some point, and it's like just not at all cutting it for me.
Like Beach Boys cover that you slapped on this album. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
And the reason I don't like songs like I Was a Teenager, because it's like, man, you're 58 by the time you're writing this album.
It's a fun play on words. I'm a sucker for a fun play on words.
What's the play on words? They just added an they added an R to the end of teenage.
A teenager? I don't know. It's quirky. It's got quirk.
No, just say you were a teenager.
I'm trying.
That's like saying like, oh, you know what would have made Teenagers by My Chemical Romance better if it was called Teenagers.
You know what? Maybe. I'm just saying. Not my favorite My Chem song.
5 years ago,
Not
this exact conversation happening in the Green Day studio.
Right, so obviously the joke is that, like, the second this album came out, people were like, you should have gotten at least 45 fucking Swedish beat makers in here to try to save this atrocity.
Right, everything you thought made this album better could have saved it.
Right, precisely correct. Everything you thought was going to kill this album might have saved this album.
For me, if I had to choose, like, anything that I didn't think was completely unbearable,
something in there.
Stab You in the Heart was, like, maybe there. Junkies on a High was maybe there. What I can tell you without a doubt in my mind is it's not any of those first three tracks.
Oh no, those
are the toughest to get through.
I was ready to shut this off immediately when I started listening to it, but knew that I had to persevere for the sake of this show, Mark,
for the integrity.
so that you and I could sit down and say this album belongs in
3, 2, 1 Crime to Humanity. You didn't want to say it with me?
I don't know if I want to commit. Is it the worst album
Do we
I've
keep
ever heard?
Do we keep that tier lonely?
I will say this. It is without a doubt worse than Aggressive by Beartooth. So it is not moving any further than here at the most.
I mean, that record also wasn't good, right? That's why it is where it is. Are we certain it's not better than that?
I assure you, with 100% certainty, this Green Day album is by far the worst I've had to sit through.
Yeah, no pushback. No pushback. It's an interesting question because it truly does fit the fucking awful. Is it a crime to humanity?
I'm thinking, like, what does it take to be a crime? Like, what does that mean to us? What does it mean to be a crime to humanity? Like, this album actively, like, should never be listened to by anybody ever. There's not a single positive takeaway from it. I don't know if I'm ready to say...
This is the album I close my eyes and think about when you say things like that, though. Not like officially putting that out there into the world, but like...
I'm like trying to think, like, off the top of my head, like, worst albums I've listened to from bands that I at least liked something of theirs, and like not just like randomly picking a band no one's heard of and being like, yeah, this is terrible. Like actually like a legitimate project.
There was like an Atreyu album or two in there.
Oh, that's a good point. But even every once in a while, there's like a, yes, I enjoy this melody. Like it's not what I want from this band. So that's kind of where I'm pushing back on like Green Day. Is it like not at all what I want or enjoy from this band, but is it like truly like completely toxic garbage, or is there like a modicum of something here?
So you're saying bare minimum there is one or two redeeming factors, and that would prevent it from all falling into that category?
And I know we were like scratching to find like one or two redeeming qualities, but I was like, was this painful? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I don't know if my approach is the same or not, but like, I mean, we talked about it with Beartooth. Like, that is an album that outside of the show, I will now never go and revisit.
Sure, Green Day's right there with that. Absolutely right.
Exactly. Like, it's absolutely going to be one of those. And like, for me, like, that is another thing that pushes it definitely towards those bottom two tiers.
I mean,
but I don't know if it weighs it. Like, I will never, ever, ever turn a song off of this album on again. That to me could qualify as a crime to humanity, you know? I could see myself listening to like a Fair Weather Friend by Beartooth again.
You're right. Like, even if I can find something positive here, it's not like I'm in actuality ever going to revisit a song there, though I do feel like Aggressive isn't terribly far off from there.
But like, I could also...
It's just like the style of music that I got from Beartooth's Aggressive is something that I'm much more like...
Forever and always, yeah.
Right. Like I have...
It's up your alley.
Like, yeah, some level of appreciation for where it's like here, this like style of punk rock, it's just like, who fucking cares?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
Marcos, we checked out Good Charlotte's Young and the Young and the Hopeless. It's the second studio album by this band, released October 1st, 2002 via labels I've never heard of. Commercially, the album peaked at number 7 on the US Billboard 200, which is fucking nuts, actually, and making it their first time to appear in the top 10.
Hold on.
What?
Iconic artwork?
Hold on. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. This is
I don't know
like...
if we're going to talk about it with Green Day. Like this is how you do artwork.
This is fucking great. Yeah, this is incredible. Like the nuclear family all sitting down to watch the world end. I love it. Like, it's beautiful.
It's very Fallout coded.
Absolutely, of course, yes. Because it has like that 1950s like touch to it, which is very era appropriate.
Yeah, I always loved like the green
war
in the text, like kind of matching the jacket.
Yeah, overall I love the artwork. Like no argument there. Now, getting into the album, right? We got 12 tracks. We got 2 bonus tracks that I definitely did not hear. That now that I think about it, there's no way I heard those 2 fucking tracks.
So, fair to say this band's 2 biggest tracks back to back on this album?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, the anthem and
Girls and Boys was pretty popular too, for what it's worth. But yes, I would think of Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous as the song by this band, with Anthem like maybe close behind and Girls and Boys like not too far off from there. So like absolute fucking heat on this record. Like literally the peak of this band exists on this record. Like they're 3 best songs period as far as I'm concerned.
So a couple of questions, and a quick clarifier on my part. I'd never listened to this album before recording this episode.
It's crazy, but I understand the time frame was
but it's also the
before
purpose
you.
of the show, right?
Yeah.
This was slightly before my time. Everyone knows I was born in 2010.
Yeah.
I've grown fast. Sam, did you listen to this at the time of release?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Did you own the Jewel case?
Appointment listening. I don't think I actually own this album. Though I might have. I feel like no.
I feel like I didn't really get a straight answer.
The weird thing is that like I still own every CD I've ever bought, which is strange because I've given up so much like media that I wish I hadn't. So to have things like from when I was like 14 is crazy. But I don't think this record is one of them. I just like coincidentally don't think I ever purchased this record. But there's no way I didn't hear it. Like it was just a record that you heard. I mean, that could have been my iPod era. So maybe I had the songs in a way that I didn't feel like I needed to buy the CD. I don't know.
Okay.
I just I don't remember, and like I desperately need.
We
to
did not
know.
hear the last con.
Yeah, but it was like I don't even remember when going on Spotify seeing like, oh hey, this is the deluxe edition of this album. Like those last two songs are definitely on here, so I must have heard them. Like 100%.
Really?
I just truly did not. This album flew by.
It does.
It in no way felt like I listened to like 14 tracks when I listened to this album. Like in no capacity. Which is to say that like I really thoroughly enjoyed this in a way that was like it holds up even better than I expected. There's something about this style of like this little like window of like emo pop punk, like that like crossover, like right in that like sweet spot where like them and like Sum 41 and Blink-182 were all kind of like right before they sort of like did a full on like hard turn into emo, that they were just sort of like really good at this radio pop punk in a way that I still feel like
crazy we got
modern pop punk bands can't do a great job of even replicating now.
I mean, all three of those primes like pretty much happened at the same time, right? Blink maybe a little before.
Yes, yeah, like relatively all within the same way. You can throw like Taking Back Sunday in there. You can throw like some level of My Chemical Romance in there, even though they were clearly like progenitors of like the modern like emo cultural movement. I just didn't expect like the deeper cuts on this album to be solid, and they ended up being solid. I was like, listen to My Bloody Valentine, and I'm like, man, this is silly as fuck, but it is entertaining.
I was a little mad listening to that song.
In what capacity?
I was like, bro, MGK fucking... he stole their whole flow.
He was biting
bar for bar.
He was biting them.
Like that name, like that then belongs to Good Charlotte.
The story of My Old Man is like, man, you forget how good like 17-year-olds are writing about how upset they are with their parents. Like when you get them like in like the heat of the moment, like in the reality when it's actually happening and not like looking back on it like 10 years later or some shit, like when they're feeling it transcends.
Some
like
of that
it comes across.
Emo stuff that does bleed into this record and tracks like The Day That I Die are like, they're fucking good.
This album just had no reason to go as hard as it did. This band was just like, rent was due. Landlord was knocking at the door. They were down to the last dollar in their savings account. And they left it all in the fucking studio.
They truly did. I walked out of this one being really impressed with Wondering, which I feel like is sort of an underrated Good Charlotte song. Really enjoyed that.
I feel like it tapers off like a little bit in the end. Like I
lose a little bit of interest.
Like when you hit self-titled, it doesn't really have the punch that you would hope the self-titled track would. And like Emotionless and Moving On, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But like, man, Hold On, Girls and Boys.
Yep.
The anthem, like these are iconic songs. These are all-time songs. These are forever songs. This is a forever album. Really? But how does it stack?
So I don't know if you're gonna fully agree or not, but like
I think you're gonna undercut it right now, and I'm ready for it.
Well,
I think you're scared.
No. I'm gonna make a
comparison.
I'm gonna make a comparison. Sure. I think of all the albums, this one is most similar to.
You're right. I see it too.
Not only stylistically, but like very specifically in that it's just got like the best songs this band ever wrote. It's that Billy Talent album.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. But that Bullet for My Valentine album is not even the worst comparison either. Like it's very similar in terms of like finding a band like right at like the genesis of them being amazing, but also arguably being the best they ever were.
Sure. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'd call this a GOAT. I don't think I'd call it a masterpiece because I don't love all of it.
But I'm looking at that I'm willing to throw it above the just okay category, but I'm looking at some of that bitch there, and I don't know if I could go that far.
I feel like you're undercutting it now.
Yeah, I was hoping you would do it for me, and now you kind of put me in a spot.
All right. Well, talk me through it.
All right.
What can you see it overcoming
The best,
here?
the truth is that the best songs on this album, I do think, do kind of hang with like the best songs on like.
I mean,
finding God before God finds me, if I'm being honest.
It also helps that a lot of these songs have 15 years on them and have proven themselves timeless.
Yeah, but they were instantly timeless. Like,
true.
There's a reason this album like hit number 7 when it came out. It's because like, man, they were coming off like the anthem and shit. Like that stuff hit immediately. Yeah. Damn, am I gonna go high with this album? Is
it a certified hood classic or is it that bitch? Good Charlotte. I'll defer to you. I don't know if I feel strongly enough to argue it too hard into hood classic. I think if it does end up there.
Did you like it better or more than this Paris album?
I think I enjoyed it more than that Billy Talent album.
Fuck.
Or less than that Billy Talent album.
Okay, that's where I'm at. Thank you.
But like if that's the tier it goes in. But if it's that bitch, then I'm not sure. I mean,
well, if you're not sure here, then it can't go higher than here.
Stylistically, like, I will prefer that Paris album over this.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. That this isn't generally the thing that you like gravitate towards, but
the songs
credit where credit's due, though.
They're
credit where
really
credit's
good.
Due.
I don't know. Where are you leaning?
I think that I might go so far as to argue. Shit, I don't know, because I do think that like I don't want to hold too much against like the ending of this album just sort of like fading off into the background, but it does a little bit. I think it's arguably better than that Paris album. I'm really there. I think it's arguably better than the 1,000 Below album. It's that Bad Omens album I stop at and I'm not sure what to do. Like that's where I hit a wall. And I'm not sure how to like move forward. Is it if it's better than that? I think for me this is either behind Bad Omens or in front of Bad Omens and no higher. I think this Billy Talent album is just it's on its higher tier. Yeah, there's like a consistency here that's like pure fucking like adrenaline and like dopamine that like this Good Charlotte album never quite settles into that level of like energy, and then I don't think it scratches like Bullet either.
So let's lock it into that bitch, but where?
Right. For me, it's either above or below Bad Omens, but you tell me if you think it falls further than that.
I don't know if it's a better album than 1,000 Below. I think it is.
I feel like a second ago you were saying you're not even sure if it's better than Paris.
Well, I mean, like I'm sitting here like going through all these thoughts, like I'm talking myself into certain placements here.
Right, rolling them around in your head a little bit. Yeah. I feel you.
So let's call it better than Paris. Is it better than 1,000 Below?
Is it better than 1,000 Below? How do you like where it's sitting, right? How do you like that feeling?
I don't hate that feeling. Let me see it on the other side. This is really underwhelming. Okay.
You do want it to be snappier. It just isn't that snappy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Mm.
Is that the right feel?
Honestly, I think that looks okay. Here's the other picture. God damn it.
Interesting.
I don't hate the look of that.
I think that's fair.
But I don't think it's right. I think that's right. I'm sorry. I think that's right.
You're giving me whiplash, but let's lock this in because I think that's probably where it belongs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what if I looked back on this and I was like, which album am I going to listen to? I'm probably still picking this Bad Omens album.
Fair enough.
Finally, we have The Finer Things by State Champs. This is the debut album by the East Coast pop punk band State Champs. It was released on October 8th, 2013 through Pure Noise Records. It was announced for release and the artwork track list was revealed July 31st, 2013. The album had a major impact. Rocksound considered it one of the best pop punk albums of the decade and said it was included on their 50 best albums of 2013 list at number 14. The album was also included at number 43 on Rocksound, so on and so forth. And when I look at this album, I see
At
Abbey
number
Road by the
14,
Beatles.
it is Abbey Road.
Okay, is
Like,
it
it's
actually?
not, but it is.
Okay. Blow my mind if it was actually Abbey Road.
Does anyone know where this is? Because I feel like I've never seen pop punk kids go and post up here.
Chicago band, right?
East Coast. That's technically Chicago. I mean, Chicago's Midwest.
Or is this like a New
No, they're
York
Albany.
band? Yeah, this is a New York.
They're New
band,
York.
So shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So this is somewhere in. This could literally be anywhere. I can't.
This
We
is
need
in
we need
Buffalo?
that guy who's like the fucking location whisperer or
This
whatever
could
the
be
fuck his
Canada.
name is.
The location
Yeah,
whisperer.
yeah.
I know who you're talking about, but I love that as a new nickname.
His moniker.
Yeah. Over 11 years old is crazy to me. I don't know why that. I don't know. That one took me off. It caught me off guard.
Knocked you off balance a little bit.
A little bit. I'll be honest. I forget oftentimes that this was their debut. Like
Same.
I just didn't know. It didn't really register for me that this album actually existed until I went and listened to it.
Mm-hmm. And Stage Champs was a band that you and I got into a little late. So like,
definitely.
It's part of the reason we don't know this band's lore super well. So this was once again, this like Father of All was a first time listen for me. I hadn't heard this
same.
album prior, which was kind of exciting because I did go into this album knowing that like a lot of people did enjoy it. So I was fairly optimistic for it. And I ended up thinking it was pretty fucking incredible, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't really have expectations going into it, but I was impressed.
There's just something
it's
about
also
this.
not what I expected it to be, like from an energy standpoint.
What do you mean?
This band they had something to prove on this album for sure.
They had a little spice on them, right? Now they
Way more
feel like
spice
a
than they
little
do
happy-go-lucky
nowadays.
and silly, and this had some spice on it. They had a little. You know what it is that you just honestly cannot replicate this like sensation of like this feeling of like earnestness that these pop punk artists have like at this like specific, like when they drop like their debut album and they're coming in hot and they're all of like fucking 19 to 20 years old and they're like just speaking their truth, whatever it may be. Like there's just like a genuineness to it that you can never again replicate.
Yeah.
Like you can't ever run this kind of shit back. Like you just like, you were these four fucking dudes at this time.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking about how your fucking heart's broken and how like this world's this fucking big beautiful place to you, and like everything about this just feels like so incredibly real in a way that it's like
It's lightning in a bottle in a sense.
100% that. And it's so cool to go back and listen to this and be like, man, it's incredible to hear like a band like State Champs, who did go on to be pretty fucking popular, like come
And
out of the
continue
gate
to be,
like
yeah.
this. And they come out of the gate fucking hot, Marco. Songs like Elevated and Remedy are absolutely fantastic. And Simple Existence might be my new favorite State Champs song, which is funny to say because it's their debut album.
Simple Existence was definitely a standout for me.
Bro, what's that line, bro? Can't sleep in the city that never sleeps or something like that?
Well, when you say it out loud like that, it doesn't quite.
It's some shit like that, but
Doesn't
it's
quite
like
hit,
it's
but-
absolutely fucking some of the hardest shit you've ever heard in your whole
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, no, a really kind of surprised by this one. It was the one I was like,
I fell asleep in a city that does it. I don't know why, but like I heard that line and I was like, God damn, State Champs.
you've redeemed
You
that
ate
line.
that so fucking hard.
Yeah, you can't replicate this one. Like, I don't think State Champs will ever sound like this again, or has the desire to, and that's all well and good, but like, it's cool that this exists.
100%.
It's cool that we saw this side at any point of State Champs, and I'm glad it was recorded, and I'm glad I've heard this now.
This is where every band starts. I feel like this is where every pop punk band starts. Pop punk like starts at like the precipice of just being the most honest to life experience just translated into music before they end up becoming like some amalgamation of like everything that was, but never quite being able to be in that space again and replicate it, right? I will say this. I walked away from this album and I was like, is their vocalist Derek DeStefano, like, is he kind of too good for pop punk? I kind of like walk away from this and I'm like, he feels better than pop punk. Like he's almost, this genre does not deserve this level of talent.
It's got a different,
it's not like Ben Barlow where you hear that nasally ass voice and you're like, yeah, you were bored for this shit. You hear Derek and I'm like,
he's got a different style here too.
The right American Idol audition early in his career could have like pivoted him in a totally different direction.
I was going to ask, listening to this record, Derek was a dead ringer for a very specific vocalist that I could never quite put my finger on.
I'm not sure either,
anything for you there.
It's like it's some level of like a country rock, and I just can't quite place who that is.
I'm thinking scene adjacent or like within the scene, right? So I don't know if it's like, man, this guy really reminds me of fucking Clay Aiken. Like that's not it.
I don't know why, but I think of him in the same breath or in the same space as Brian from I Prevail, where they feel like two vocalists that have like these very traditionally like they're just like they have these very strong singing voices, but they're like sandwiched into like the alternative space. You know what I mean?
I'm really curious if somehow that is who I was thinking of.
It might be. I hear Brian from I Prevail and I think to myself, like, this is just like one of the most incredible singers, period. Like this guy could just walk away from metalcore and be like successful in anything he was in. And I kind of get that from Derek as well. Like it's just like a really easy to like vocal like performance.
Yeah, I mean, credit to the band. Like, full credit to the rest of this band. Derek does steal the show for me here. I just didn't expect him to come out and pack that hard of a punch.
It just makes me look at like current stage jams and being like, that is a project that I do really enjoy, but I wish that I had been on the ground floor for this band because I would have been just as excited as everybody else was, like for the entirety of their career. In the same way that I feel like, you know, it took me a minute to get into Neck Deep and then I go back and I listen to something like Gold Steps and I'm like, y'all were right this whole fucking time. This whole fucking time y'all were right. So, with all that being said, Marcos, how do you feel about State Champs overall? I feel like we didn't totally talk about like every individual song. I thought like I had a few songs I really loved, and I genuinely liked the entirety of the album. I don't know that I would say it was like one of the best things I ever listened to or anything, but I just really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it also doesn't have the same experience as Good Charlotte in the sense that like it's got a pretty consistent, like from beginning to end, there's not like a dip in quality towards the end.
There's little peaks like with a couple of these songs. Like you can tell, yeah, okay, they cooked on this one, like absolutely, but they never really fall too far from there.
No fire in the kitchen.
But then I'd go so far as to say that I don't even know that I'd call some of those songs like, are those necessarily like my favorite State Champ songs of all time? Maybe, I guess, right? Like I came into this band with like Frozen and like Criminal and stuff like that. And I think about like how good those are. Those feel like relatively on the same level as this.
I don't know. So definitely not a crime to humanity. Definitely not fucking awful. Above pretty mid. Just okay. I don't know.
Just okay doesn't feel like it matches up with everything we're saying about this album. It just doesn't.
Right. But I also can't see myself. I think the peaks on Good Charlotte are obviously so high that I can't talk myself into that State Champs album suddenly being a better one than that.
I'm willing to make an argument for it being at the bottom of that bitch because I think it's better than Just Okay, but I don't think it exceeds the quality of these albums here.
I think honestly, we shouldn't overthink this one. I think it is just
You feel good about it?
Yeah, I don't like it more than that Paris album, but it's better than Just Okay. It's better than that Wage War album.
And then it's better than literally everything that comes after this Wage War album here. Wage War really for me is kind of like the shining beacon of this like tier right now.
Yeah.
Like it just barely missed that bitch.
It's a good face of the franchise there.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. All right, Marcus. So as it stands on this episode, and currently, for Ranking the Scene, the best album we've listened to is still Disposed by The Plot in You. But now the worst album we listen to is Father of All Motherfuckers by Green Day. Unfortunately. For us and Green Day fans and anyone else who's come into contact with that record.
Sweden.
Once again, if you want to follow us at SOTS Podcast on all social media, patreon.com/SOTS Podcast if you want to support the show and suggest albums for future episodes of Ranking the Scene. We love you guys. Goodbye.
Good play.